Hey everyone, I'm Kyle Ingham from the Distilled Man. Up next, I chat with one of the founders of British Shaving and Grooming company Stubble and Strife. We get into the details about what exactly is so special about safety razors. Plus, we talk about the other essential things you need to know to start enjoying a traditional shave. This is part 2 of a 2-part interview, so if you haven't already checked out part 1, you can click the link below to watch it now. Also, don't forget to grab a free copy of my PDF guide, 48 Hour Gentleman, your one weekend plan to more confidence, poise, and manly know-how. Alright, without any further ado, let's get to it. So, let's talk about safety razors. What's so special about safety razors?
Well, it's probably the number one question that we're asked. Right? So for those guys that aren't familiar with safety razors, and there are many, over the last 10, 20, 30 years, system razor is very much more prevalent.
The system razor is just a regular razor that you might see with multi-blades?
Correct, yeah. Okay. So we tend to call them systems because they have a handle and then a cartridge and you pull the blade out. And it's very simple, right? They're very good in the sense that they're fast to use and they're very good in the sense that you minimize cuts. Mm-hmm. So there's nothing wrong with them per se. So most guys that come to us don't perceive they have a problem and say, well, why would I use one of these safety razors? What piques their interest is the fact that their dad used one of them, mm-hmm. or their grandfather. And then when they pick up the razor, they realize it actually feels very different in the hand. So
substantial, really, right?
Yeah, because the way that these things are made is that they're very much a piece of metal, a piece of steel. So the handle is steel and the head is steel, or the two vice components are steel. So the weighting in the hand is very different. They feel very substantial as opposed to a polycarbonate handle, which feels a little less weighty. And with the system cartridges, the cartridges are very light. So this is a very different type of sensation in the hand. And then just working through why they use them, they're kind of curious as to, well, why would I go back to that? Surely this is old technology. And we have to go some way to explain that in actual fact that there's quite a lot of technology that goes into the old style razor blades. They may be old style, but there's actually quite a lot of technology that goes into those. The mix of the steel that goes into creating the blade, the finishes, it can be a platinum finish or a polymer finish, all designed to give you a little bit of extra glide. There are a couple of benefits with those types of razors. So first of all, I mentioned the fact that they are cheaper. The actual razors themselves are cheaper. So there's a cost saving. Mm-hmm. The handle is more expensive, that's a one-time purchase. They tend to be better for sensitive skin because there's less metal rubbing across the skin. They do require more in terms of technique, mm-hmm. because they tend not to have pivoting heads. So you then have to learn to move your wrist and your arm around and also pull the skin taut on your face in certain places. So you get a nice close cut. They tend to be closer. That's a general feedback that you get from guys. Mm-hmm. So there are a number of benefits.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, as you talk about the system razors, it sounds like, I mean, like we said, it really is an advanced technology, but and I hate to say it this way, but it's almost like they made it more idiot-proof. You know, if you don't have to think about your shaving, and now there's all these men who are sort of waking up and deciding, no, actually I do want to pay attention to my shaving because of this ritual aspect that you talked about.
Yeah, I suppose the way I'd look at it is if we think about smartphones, you know, there's lots of technology in those. But if you want to use a phone and you want to talk to someone, there is older pieces of technology that you can use that work really well.
That have very clear signals, right?
Yeah, exactly, right.
What is this landline?
Alternatively, you just go and talk to someone, right, face to face.
Well, I don't know. That sounds kind of scary, there. Actually.
So I think it comes back down to what's important to you. Mm-hmm. But certainly from my perspective and many of our customers, when they've moved to a safety razor system, to a traditional system, if you like, they've never moved back, and they really enjoy it. Partly down to the ritual, partly down to the luxury of spending a little bit of time doing something that's purely man-focused, if you like, or self-focused.
Well, there's also that satisfaction of being able to conquer something that does take learning or take technique to say that, definitely. Well, you're not going to be able to get it at first, but once you get it, you're almost like, you feel like you're in a club or something where you've achieved something. Yeah. So, we talked a little bit about safety razors, and I know a lot of our viewers are going to be kind of wondering, well, what else do I need to know? What's the other component? And the obvious thing that comes to mind is, when I think about my shaving experience, I think about, well, the foam in a can. So what else is there out there? Can you talk to me about the range of options that are available?
Yeah, I can do, but the key thing to remember is that the first other constituent you need is water. And a lot of guys forget that.
Interesting.
So dry shaving is a hard way to shave.
Yeah.
Right, so that's the first thing.
Wait, do people really try that? So they
we
just put the foam on and they just run the razor on their face?
There's a surprisingly large number of guys, based on the feedback that we've had, that don't even bother with the foam.
My goodness.
And would just dry shave. And then they come to us and say, my shaving, it doesn't work so well. And in many cases, it's clearly those guys that have really strong stubble, they know it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. It tends to happen mostly with younger guys, and they'll say, I tend to shave before I go in the shower, so I get up on the bed and I start shaving. And I don't really use any water because I'm going to go in the shower. And then they wonder why they've got cuts or their skin feels sore or it feels kind of raw. So that's the first part of it, is remember, irrespective of anything else, you need water.
Use water, okay.
Then after that, in terms of products, you can generally look at the products as five different types. Right? So there are shave foams, there are shave gels, there are shave soaps, there are shave creams, and there are shave oils. And a lot of them come down to price. So the shave creams and the shave gels, the shave foams and the shave gels, they tend to be very much mass produced, designed to maybe with some silicone or something like that, more chemical based. And typically they come in an aerosol can. Okay. Then you get shave creams, which are much more moisturizing. They tend to be thicker. The foam that they produce is a deeper type of foam. Okay, they're really good for guys with sensitive skin. They're what you would use with a shave brush. You couldn't use a shave brush with foam or with gel. So
you need to use the brush to sort of stimulate the gel or the cream.
And the brush helps to bring up the hairs, soften the hairs themselves, so pull the hairs away from the skin so that they're ready for cutting the razor.
That's an interesting point, because I think a lot of people who aren't familiar with that would think that the brush was just to put the shave cream on itself, but it actually has an effect in making your shave more effective, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
So, well.
Then shave soaps. They tend to have the lightest fragrance. They last the longest, so typical shave soap might last you anywhere between 6 months and a year, so if you don't want to spend a lot on shaving, that's the way to go. You need a brush, you can't use your fingers. You need to add water, and you need to agitate the soap itself to build up a lather. And the lather's a different type of lather. It's a more soapy lather, so less dense. Kind of varies, but it can be a little bit more drying because by the very nature of it, it's a soap.
I would think it would provide less lubrication for the actual shave. Is that true?
Part of it is actually down to putting a layer of something in between the skin and the blade to give that extra bit of glide. But there's also an element of the fact that it's purely visual. You can actually see where you're shaving. So, because if you're running over the same spot time and time again, you're going to actually make the skin more sensitive. But the water and the product work together to give you that little layer and that buffer between what is a pretty sharp piece of metal running across kind of sensitive skin. And then lastly, shave oils. These tend to be really good for guys that have sensitive skin, because they tend to be made from essential oils. They're also really good for travel. So I've used them for travel, and typical bottle is really small. It's quite a strong little glass bottle. It's a slightly different sensation, so it takes a little bit of time to get used to that. But the key thing there again is water, because the oil works with the water to give you the slip. So you don't just apply the oil and start to shave. The water is still an important component of shaving.
So, I really enjoyed talking to you today, and I think I've learned a lot.
Yeah, me too.
The viewers have learned a lot. So to wrap this up, I know a lot of guys are watching and they're probably interested in shaving, but maybe don't know what next step to take. So I'd be curious to hear, what are the 2 or 3 investments I could make, or I should make, if I want to get more serious about shaving and taking care of my skin, but maybe more so for shaving.
Yeah, I think if you're looking purely at shaving, then number 1 is time. Just spend a little bit more time. You find it really very relaxing, and it's nice to get back to learning a technique that involves a knife.
And that is an investment, actually. I hadn't thought of it that way, but really, investing time is a big thing.
Yeah, and so using a razor itself is something that you should really enjoy first thing in the morning, right? It's your moment in the morning to just relax, get the day sorted in your head and how you're going to approach things. But the second thing I would probably say that anyone invests in is a badger brush. There's something really relaxing about taking a badger brush and massaging your face with it first thing in the morning. It just helps to wake you up, it helps to wake the skin up, it gets the blood going, and it's obviously fantastic for shaving. So those are my two recommendations.
Nice, excellent. Well, thanks again for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, pleasure.
Hey everyone, thanks again for watching. If you liked this video, please hit like below. Also, if you didn't catch part 1 of this 2-part interview, you can click below to watch the first half right now. We talk about the recent men's grooming revolution and delve into the ritual of traditional shaving. Finally, if you haven't already grabbed a copy, make sure to download my free PDF guide, 48-Hour Gentleman, your one weekend plan to more confidence, poise, and manly know-how. Alright, well thanks again for watching, and see you soon.